to actually build a blueprint for live broadcast production. It doesn't exist. So over the course of the next 5 days, we're going to put our heads together and our thoughts together and discuss everything that needs to be done by a producer and everything that a potential client should look for. That's what the show's about. And whilst I make changes in the background, it's over to Lottie.
Well, I remember to turn my microphone on first, and I'm sure that Brigetti and Stephen are checking the sound on Facebook and YouTube, because that's always the first place to start when you are self-producing. So hello, everybody in the live world, while Stephen's playing around and mixing it up with where we are on screen for you. Where will we be seen? Marco looks like he's having a lovely time on a tropical beach. I'm here in my studio, as is the rugby expert in his studio, Joe. And today, gents, and Brigetti, when she joins us in a bit later, I know that the core aim for today is to actually answer the questions that so many of our clients, family, friends have said. What's the difference between Zooming a chat, video chat, and actually doing a live show? What can a producer actually give you? So what we're going to answer for you today, we're going to have 5 questions. Marco doesn't even know this yet, but I know him. They'll be able to answer. We're going
Give me your best shot.
Well, go on. We're going to define what is show production. What is a live? What's the difference? We're going to see where we're going to start. We're also going to check out what tools you really need to use. What do you need to invest in? What can a producer provide you with? Hey to gospel. Hello, we've got people arriving already. It's fantastic. Number 4, we're also going to look at what do you need to plan with yourself as a producer or with a producer. And number 5, the one thing everybody wants to know, having just spent a fortune on a new Brio, is what does it all cost? So hello to Brigetti joining us in the room from her lovely lounge. She's always in a lovely lounge.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Cape Town in South Africa.
So I'll tell you what, let's kick off with Marco. I want each of us just to do a 1 minute. What does a show production, what's the difference between a Zoom chat, for example, and why we're all saying to people, get off Zoom chats. There's more to it than just that. And a live production show. Marco, what does the difference mean to you?
Well, first of all, hello, greetings from Portugal, warm today. There's a big difference, which is a structure, which you should be more strict while you're live, because we're supposed to be more engaging or free on a Zoom call, and on a live stream you should have this kind of scripted thing. And it doesn't mean it's not just script while you're live. It should script what you should do before and what you should do after. I think it's the 3-part script could be a nice difference between a live show and a Zoom shot.
And it's really interesting with the planning. I want to come into that in a little bit, but it's a really core. I know, Brigetti, that's really important to you, as it is to you, Joe. And to me, with Jen's live stream life cycle, I got it whipped into me. We plan, then we produce and present, and then we promote it, and then we repurpose it. So, Joe, let's come to you next, as you were next in the room. Before we get to Brigetti, what does the difference between a video chat and a produced live show? Building on what Marco said.
For me, we learned a thing, excuse my language, we learned a thing in the forces years ago called the 7 Ps. Prior preparation and planning prevents poor performance. And it is all about that. We've gone a stage further, though, haven't we? Because it is about curating content. It is about telling a story. And that's really critical. It's the engagement and the relationship. I think you can come and produce a show, but it can be cold. You turn up, you have the guests on and the host on, but I want to be working with people for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I want, and that again, we'll talk about later about how often you do it with them. But it all starts with that engagement piece. Somebody contacts me or I want to speak with somebody. The first thing I do, I get them in the studio and I start that relationship building going. And that's the difference between a Zoom chat, which is great if you want the family or a local club or something like that. But the difference is that, as Marcus says, you've got a structure. You are telling a story. You're building that engagement and that relationship. The greatest thing that somebody can do when they come off a live streaming show is say they are that comfortable with all the work you've done. It's on the old iceberg model. All below the waterline, the 10% above the waterline, going live, easy peasy peasy. Everything else, all the hard work is done below. And so when they get on, they feel comfortable. And then when they leave the show, they go, I forgot I was actually on live to thousands of people. And that's the difference for me.
There's so much in there. And while you're talking, both of you, everybody, I'm busy trying to type on the other computer. So if you're watching, by the way, wherever you're watching from, I can see that Gospel and Stephen are both watching. If you are on Facebook or YouTube and you want to interact so that Stephen, our fabulous producer of today's show, that's what a producer is. They do all this hard work for you. Stephen can bring up people's comments like hello from Gospel when she arrived and be live in 5. Welcome to everybody. Which that was a hint, Stephen. Can you bring one on, please? But you'll see comments appearing below us. There you go. That's exactly what we mean. A producer of a show can help you do all of that work so that you, as the speaker, the host, can focus on the core content and the learning you really want to deliver. So, Brigetti, let's hear for you. I'm going to try and type, because that's what self-producing is. You multi-purpose and you have to do 5 things at once. So a producer is great. And I can see Sarah Fox has just arrived in the room. Sarah, you're just in time to hear what Brigetti thinks the difference between a video chat or a repurposed video replay and a live produced show actually is. Brigetti, over to you.
Hi, Sarah. Hello, Gospel, and thanks to everyone who's joining us today. I want to use what Loretta Petrucci did of live streaming pros. She coined what the different levels of live streaming are, and there's basically, she says there's 4 levels of live streaming. Level 1 is basically when you simply going to take your mobile phone, whichever that is, whether it's Android or an iPhone, and you simply go live. In other words, there's 0 preparation. You just hit the go live button and that's level 1, nothing else. And then you move on to being able to use your desktop. You go live on your desktop with no fancy bells and whistles, and Facebook allows you to do that. You can go live with Facebook Producer. There's no bells and whistles. You go live and bam. Then you also have the option to do what we're doing today, which is using third-party software that is browser-based. And you can do a lot more bells and whistles, like you can show your lower thirds, you can show the names, you can show frames, you can do all kinds of fancy things. And all of that, I think, is what the idea is for us to unpack this week. Because a lot of people don't, even when somebody asks you to, in my opinion, asks you to produce a show, they have no idea what happens behind that, because they only see you go live on the screen. It takes many, for me, in my opinion, and what I do, it takes me many hours of work, dedicated work, before I hit the go live button. Because I never hit the go live button just by accident. There's always a plan. It's always scripted. There's a whole lot of stuff that happens in the background and after the show. So I'm definitely the produced show queen. I don't hit the go live button just for the sake of it. There's always a purpose for me going live, and it's always produced. That's my forte. I love produced shows.
Love it, love it, love it. As they say on the Professional Bake Off, Cherish, she's fabulous. Brigetti, you and I first met a few years ago when Jen Nelson, Tina Cavelant, who is going to be on later this week, and myself co-founded Ladies Go Live, which was the first virtual summit for women by women and the men who support us. And Luria Petrucci was actually going to be one of our guests. We interviewed her live for some of her tips. And I love the fact that knowing you since then, we've built this phenomenal, and with these amazing gentlemen that we've met along the way, the men who support us along the way, there really is a community. And I think for me, the biggest difference between when you simply go live, like, yes, you might go live for that's the, as Brigetti said, that's the family and friends video chat. That's sticking your camera out the window and saying, "Ooh, what a lovely view." But if you're clever about it, and especially through growing past COVID tough times, lockdowns, wherever you are in the world, it's that level of the reason behind. And that's what Jen Nelson gave us with the live stream life cycle, the 4-part that I added in presenting. So it's the 5-part live stream life cycle. And again, it's proper planning prevents poor performance as well, Joe. That was 5 in the Navy, not 6. We had 1 less because my dad was in the Navy. But it's that sense of, yes, there's times to go live for fun, but when you're bringing it into your business, that's when professionally pro style, you might not be pro yet, not as good as Luria Petrucci or as Brigetti is at creating shows, but it's okay to simply have a go. Joe, you're in your studio room there. I'm in my studio room here. We have space because we've made it, and we've got Brigetti and Marco with their phenomenal backdrops on green screen. So before we go into...
It's a
beach. Sorry.
It's real.
Marco's on the beach. Before we go into looking at what tools to use, where would you say, for people who are starting out, Brigetti, I might come back to you straight on this, and then you can pass on to Marco or to Joe. Where would you say the difference is between when you know where to start as part of your business to grow live and go live with a business plan, which we all need to, because these are the tools. We around you watching here have known this for years, that this is the future. This is next gen learning using virtual tools. So what's the difference between how do you know when you can self-produce and when to get a pro producer in? Brigetti, I'm passing back to you on that one.
Well, I think, there's so many tools nowadays. We've got, I think we sport for choice. When we first started, there was maybe 1 or 2 choices at best, post blab days. But now you've got so many choices, so many tools, and the tools have matured significantly from when we started. So you need to realize, I think a lot of people, I want to start at this point. A lot of people, because I think we need to define at what point do you call yourself a live stream producer? Because every Dick, Tom, and Harry that's hitting the go live button now, and everybody that uses Zoom thinks they're a live stream producer. It is not. You cannot call, if you're a Zoom user, please do not call yourself a live stream producer, because there's zero production value in doing Zoom. And yes, I think at some point I would also like to sort of get into how we can help people be better and do better at using Zoom. If you want to be a producer, put some work into the background, and maybe we could talk about what that would take just to increase the production value of your Zoom meeting, because I believe we can play a role in helping people to do better at that as well. But in terms of coming back to a company deciding if they want to do this themselves or whether they should hire a producer, know that there's a learning curve. And the learning curve is going to literally, to get to the point where we are now, don't expect to get there in 4 weeks. Don't expect to get there in 2 months. It's going to take a considerable amount of time for you to first learn camera confidence, because that's where you're going to start off with. Then you've got to learn how to use these tools. And there's a whole lot of stuff in the background that needs to happen. So if you are a company right now in COVID and you're thinking, I need to go live, and you need to think this through, because you need to figure out why you're going live. What is your aim? What do you want to do? Nobody just hits the go live button if you in the corporate space. You know, what is the format going to be? Are you going to do CEO fireside chats to show your knowledge and to share your knowledge? Are you going to be interviewing people in your business? Are you going to be showing people background scenes? You know, those are kinds of questions you need to ask yourself. Find out what your why is, because unless you can answer your why, you can't go on to the next step. So I would say that that's the first point. Find out your why. And I would say if you are a corporate, definitely look at hiring a live stream producer. There's too much stress involved in trying to put something together, and not understanding the technology. It's going to take you months to learn that. So I would say if you're corporate, definitely. If you're a small business, and you have the capacity or the patience, a lot of people don't. A lot of people right now, I think we want to acknowledge, people are under a lot of stress due to COVID. People are needing to sell. And so they may not have the capacity again to learn the technology. And so a producer, just for anybody watching there, a producer is somebody that doesn't have to appear on the screen. In other words, if I'm producing a show for you, nobody else needs to even know that I'm in the background doing all the technical stuff. As far as they're concerned, the show belongs to you and your company. You're the host. You focus on doing that. We do all the technical bits in the background. So I'd like to start there. You need to first figure out your why and then move forward.
Absolutely.
Love it, Brigetti, and it's fascinating. Like you were mentioning Zoom there, and we'll come on to the tools. But Restream are also using Zoom tools now, and I can see one of the other things we always like to do, folks, when you are self-producing a show, or if you've got a producer, is to make sure that you pay attention to the comments. Like, that's true. Thank you, Smile Time Weekly. But we've got Zoom. Gospel is saying Zoom is very different, especially if it's native. Sarah Fox is saying start with your camera confidence. And thank you for the shout out to me, because that's my expertise there. And then Sarah saying after the confidence, answer your why and get a strategy. That's where Brigetti or Marco can definitely help you. And the production, Joe, Stephen, they're all doing it. So there's a whole gospel mentioning vMix and Zoom that would require some technical to help. Yes, some of the tools are technical, but we're going to come on to those in a moment. So let's go next to Joe. Actually, Marco, let's come to you next. When would you say to self-produce and when to bring in a producer from your experience, adding on to what Brigetti said?
Well, if you want to start, you have a company, you want to start because you want to, you're stuck, you need to sell, but you don't know, you have no idea from what to do, where to start, and everything you need. It's the right moment when you know you need someone to produce your show. End of story. I like things very simple, because if you try to understand which formats you have, which tools you may use, how to use the tools, how to stand in front of a camera. And if you want, okay, no, I will look at YouTube and I will figure it out how I can make this. You will spend 6 months and maybe hundreds of dollars or pounds or euros, rands in South Africa.
Yes.
Okay, I made it.
You did it.
And you will spend, and as we say here in Portugal, time is money, figuring out everything. And I just mentioned a few, not all of them. And at the end, you will be very nervous hitting for the first time the go live button. If you have someone to help you from the start, okay, what do you have? What do you want to, what is the goal by doing live streaming? What do you want to achieve? Which clients do you have to understand which platform is the best one to go live? Because it's not the same going live on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitch, on Periscope, it's not the same. So I think if you have a company, or even if you want, if you're a professional and you're on a good level, okay. If you're a newbie, I think you're allowed to make some mistakes. But if you have a company, if you are in a rush and if you have money, I think it's the right time to hire a producer. It's at the right beginning, because you can't afford to waste time and money figuring out by yourself or on YouTube how to make it.
That's the big question: to invest or not to invest. And I know that for us, because we all started live streaming roughly the same time, about
By the way,
4, 5, 6 years ago.
Last 4th of September, I made 5 years since I made my first live show on Blab.
Woohoo! I think we're all about there, Marco. And we've been lucky. We've been very, very lucky within our community to actually most of us started on Blab. We've all gone into different tools. We've been using BeLive since it started in 2016 or so. And I know there's nearly 35,000 users and 50,000 followers just of BeLive. So we're going to come to the tools in a moment, but there's so many different places that you can. But Joe, let's come to you then, because I know for you, starting in your world, rugby world, a sports world, like I've come from business and writing and professional speaking. Brigetti's come from business, community, water charges in South Africa. Marco is our Marco Ting Zing superstar. And Joe, you're a sports leader who had to shift from your sports world into finding something new, and you came across this tool. How did you connect both community, business, and production of video then?
Well, I started about 2.5 years ago, so I am almost the care in the community type throw in on this one. But I had a crazy idea about 2.5 years ago that I wanted to speak to people and engage with other like-minded people. I'm a rugby generalist, but I knew there was lots of people out there who had phenomenal knowledge, and I wanted to engage with those across the globe. I came across version 1 of BeLive, and I took it from there. My first few weren't that good, but I learned from it, and that's, it was a very simple way of being able to engage a wider global community. And I just knew that one day I'd be able to have a series of shows that we could do. But the whole premise was about keeping them informal. I've used green screens. I can use green screen capability. I like this informal approach. Other people seem to like this informal approach as well, because they feel that they're in the room with you. It's the next best thing to being in a bar or your house having a coffee or a pint with somebody and just being able to relax. Now, when it comes on to one of the things I did have to forget was I'm a sort of forces background and a business as well, up to the strategic level, and so I had to forget all of the. I'm a presentational skills advisor, train the trainer. I had to forget all of those corporate style things and be me. And that's the best bit of advice I can give to absolutely anybody, is just enjoy it and be you. There's too many people in the world who fake it till they make it. Great. If you're a small business, and this is where post-COVID now, there's a thing called business resilience that live streaming will be able to bring into place for small and artisan businesses, where you can do what I've started doing for small businesses now, fireside chats, 30-minute chats once a month through their Facebook page, where I'm hosting as well as producing. And that's another thing. For some small and artisan businesses, if they're not sure, if they're not confident about going live, do a small thing hosting with them. Do some lessons with them, some teaching stuff with them. But you can do that hosting as well. So there's a whole number of things that you can offer to people to be able to ease your way through. But it is all about being comfortable. Brigetti talked about the why. That's the critical thing. Getting somebody in the studio when they first talk to you offline, not live, and just having a general chat with them and engaging and building a relationship and finding out what, as an individual, their cause, their company, their organization, what's the raison d'etre? What makes them click? What messages? Why do they want to go live, as Brigetti says? And it's about as simple as that. It's that engagement piece, getting to know what they're doing, but giving the assurance that they don't have to go through it. You're an extension to them and their company. And that's the way it should feel, nice and simple.
Well, I'm having such an amazing time reading people's comments at the same time on my other screen over here, because this is my next step, shifting into self-production, is to have a multiple screen. I know Brigetti, Laura Petrucci used to do this years ago. We've all seen multiple real pro live with all these mixing desks and everything else and fab. Like I've got various bits and pieces and tools, but you don't need to have, as Marco said, everything to start with. Yes, we can all dream of the 4K, blur your background, new things arriving in the post. But ultimately, folks, one of the simplest things that you can get to help shift for your production and your look and feel, as Darren Vincent said earlier, I think if you're a small business producer, a producer would really capture the right image that you are trying to create and showcase. Absolutely. That's a huge important point there, Darren. One of the simple things I often use is because this is a 2D tool, I just use this little clip-on lens. That goes from 2D suddenly by clipping on a lens. I've shown this a number of times in the 5 days live. I can now tilt that down slightly and suddenly you've got much more, but you have to make sure your background is tidy. Okay, that's one of the tools that I love. Producers in the room, well, think about what your favorite tools are and your top tools, because we'll have about 5 minutes or so to chat about that. While you're thinking, let's just look at some of the other comments that are coming through. Excuse my trying to avoid the top of my head too much here, folks. Carrie said, is there a way to have a producer discussion session to see what one's needs may be? Does anybody want to answer that one, please?
Yeah, I'll take that. Sorry, Brigetti, go on.
I don't mind. Yes, absolutely. I think, I call them a discovery call. So if somebody reaches out to me and says, I would like to do a show, can you help me produce a show or do a show with me? And I said, well, we start with a discovery call, because in the discovery call, you're going to determine what it is. You're going to find out what their why is, and who the intended audience is, what it is, because you have to ask a whole bunch of questions, because very often people who approach you to do a show don't have an understanding. As our friend, now I'm trying to get Owen, as Owen Video says, you've got to have a run of the show formula. So have your run of the show formula, and people have no idea what that run of the show formula looks like. So in your discovery call, you're going to go through all of that, and you're going to tell people what the things are that they need, because they actually don't know what they need until you tell them. Because they may be watching your show, and you may be producing an expert level, but they have no idea what it takes. They think all those things happen by accident or automatically. None of it happens by accident. It's all pre-planned, and so go through all those steps. And so you have to have a pre-production run through. Do they already, depending on the size of the business, do they already have their media? Do they have a logo? Do they want to use their logo? How do they want to do their branding? Do they have all the graphic elements that's needed? Or do you have to go and create them for them? Do they have a marketing department that'll provide you with these things? And do you simply provide them with the specs within which they do it? Or do they expect you to do all those things? Do they expect you to have
Brigetti's already leaping. Brigetti, I'm going to pause you there because you're already leaping through to question 4. What do you need to plan with your producer? That's question 4. on the rundown. And Darren said, my fellow South African is absolutely right. She certainly is. And hello, South African Darren. And Sarah Fox is saying, I can see on screen, none of this happens by accident. You need planning. And Sarah knows, she is our live legals expert from Ladies Go Live. And she's the person that we go to for a broadcast release agreement. She's helped so many, and she's helping loads of people at the moment. If you haven't got live legals, get them, because they are going to come up. So let me just check out if there's any other questions, and I'm going to come to you, gents. Carrie is saying, I've done hundreds of lives and self-produced, but I'm ready to up my game. And there was a comment here from Corinda talking about that he goes live on Facebook and YouTube. And I love the fact Corinda said Stephen is a great I wasn't sure whether he was writing producer or promoter. He's actually both, because it sounded like he's a great prouder. And Corinda, many of us in the live stream world know you and know the effort that you go to with what you do to go live. You are not the average business person. You have so much more to overcome to be able to do this, yet you do it. And all of us are like this with you, Corinda. It brings tears to my eyes and joy to my heart to see you and how hard you've worked to create brilliant shows for people who really need to hear your messages that anybody can. So yes, we're all prouder, and Stephen is a great producer. So thank you, Corinda, for that. So Carrie is asking here, what's the name of the sheet you all had again? Well, we all call them different things. Brigetti called it a specific thing. I do handwritten notes. I do 3 or 4 versions of scribbles, and then I turn it into my own multicolored with the different core steps. This could be your production plan. So let's go to, I know, Joe, you had something that you wanted to add in there. So let's talk about the tools now. Seeing as we're talking about sheets and planning sheets, let's go on to the tools, and then we'll come to what plans with your producer.
I think that's, I think actually one of your tools is that. I call it a show running order and admin doc, because once you've done your discovery and you've got your notes, the first tool you've got is actually you, the why you've got, what is it the individual or the organization wants to achieve? What messages do they want to get across? What are the topic areas? That gives you your content curation. And then from that, you've then got any specific calls to action, key takeaway lines to take, all of those great, good things. All of those then go into every single, no matter how big or small the show is, it always goes into a show running order, because when you produce that, it's all part of that professionalism. And you're giving people that assuredness that you are there with them, that you're all over it like a rash. It's that 90% below the waterline again, and they feel comfortable because I now offer 3 packages. The gold package, I do everything. They make me an admin on their page and they turn up, they do a test, I contact their guests, I'm all over everything. They turn up and 15 minutes before they go live, I see them through it, that's done. If they want any less than that, there are lesser packages, but I'll tell you what, people are going to take the bigger package, because it's not expensive what you produce, but it's just a system and a process. I say, Brigetti, it takes me about 10 hours from start to finish to produce an hour-long show. There's an awful lot of detail goes into that. And I'm on some of my shows now, I'm just going into production because I find hosting and producing bloody intense. It really is. There's a lot to that. But as I said before, for small and artisan businesses, it's a great thing. If you're doing a 30-minute 5-side chat, as I call them, hosting with them for the first few, they then get used to that. You can then teach them what they need to do and then guide them through it. That's cradle to grave stuff, and you'll be with them for 10, 15, 20 years. And that's one of the things that you want to do. Don't go in cold looking for one big hit. Smaller amounts, build a relationship, build the engagement, live through their journey with them.
Can I just say something there? You don't want, when it comes to production and the relationship with your client, it's not a one and done. If somebody says to me, I want a one and done, go find someone else. It's not going to be me. You have to have a relationship with somebody, because live streaming is not a one and done deal. You've got to go in and do at least 6 months. People's got to commit for at least a minimum of 6 months with you. So 6 months to a year is what you're aiming for. It's not about just doing one show and then you're off, because no one's going to be getting results from going live once. So establish that first, find out if people is in it for the long haul with you. I would rather walk away if somebody said to me, look, it's different if somebody's got an event. An event can be a one-off thing. That's fine. That's a different thing. But if somebody's wanting to establish credibility in the marketplace, for example, with COVID, a lot of businesses have closed down. How do people know that you're open for business? You've got to let them know that you are up and running and this is what you can do. And live streaming is a great tool to help people see that you're open and what you can do. And if you've pivoted, use live streaming to educate people about what you are doing now and how you are doing it and how you can better serve the community. So again, know that it's a long haul relationship. And all of this is what you will establish in that very first critical discovery call with people. That discovery call is absolutely critical. You cannot move forward. And my piece of advice when you're doing a discovery call is do a video call. Don't try and do that via email or via a chat on Messenger or via WhatsApp or anything like that. Schedule a face-to-face call with people for your discovery call. You want to make eye contact. You want to make sure that that person is understanding what you're saying, and you can actually demonstrate. What I do in a discovery call is I have a little demo set up, for example, so that people can see what are the things that can be done in a live video production, because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So it's your job as a producer to walk them through the entire process. As Joe just said, very often they don't even know that they want the whole gamut, which is part of the fun process, because you can teach them there. That's your job as a producer, is to teach them what is available and then help them make an informed choice.
I think, Brigitte, you bringing in the fact that have a video call. We are discussing about going live, pre-recording videos or going live on camera. Do it via video chat. Yes, we've all got the Zooms, we've got the Teams, we've got LinkedIn Live is there. There's so many different things. And as I'm reading what Darren is saying, we are heading into an age where live videos and or marketing will be so mainstream that producers will put your business above the rest. Such a brilliant show, this. Well done. Oh, thank you very much, Darren. We do appreciate that very much. So everything that Joe and Brigitte was saying there, it just brings it to mind. I know we we leapt on to question number 4 and haven't covered off the tools yet. So I'm going to throw this one to Marco, because he, for me, is the king of testing new tools, playing with new devices, and doing it all from the beach. So Marco, I'm going to throw to you the question number 3 that we've kind of leapt over. What would you say if you are self-producing or working with a producer? Because I'd say a producer's job is to help you learn the tools that you need to use so that we avoid spending a fortune, like you said at the very start of the show.
Absolutely. For me, one of the most important tools, which is for you to work by yourself, or even better if you need a collaborative tool, it's Google. Because you have Google Docs, where you can put people from different places in the world working on the same doc. You have Google Sheets, for instance. Last week I made a Google Sheet where someone who's gonna host a show this week, and I'm producing, for her to put in the different fields the information I need to run the show. Also, Google Calendar, it's amazing to set days and schedule things. For me to work on the before, they are amazing tools. And adding to what Joe and Bridgetti said about the pre-call, I think if you start working with a live producer, which the most of the time spending with you will be producing the show while you're live, it's a bad producer, because it's like an iceberg. Again, iceberg metaphor works for this, because the biggest work they need to do with you when you are producing a show, or they are producing a show for you, it's behind the curtains, because there's this first call, there's this situation to understand, to figure out everything. Do you have a marketing team to make visuals? No, I don't. So we need to do this. Everything. It's about confidence again. It's about confidence and to avoid headaches to you. And then we have this, for instance, if you are self-producing, this feature, this tool I'm using today, which is Manicam. It's amazing because he does these virtual screens. It's a virtual screen. I was joking. I'm not on the beach. It's a virtual screen. It also allows you to have a kind of a very simple sound mixer. Okay, it allows you, while you're in the same tool, you can bring some audio jingles, for instance. You can bring some audio tracks, some music. Pay attention to copyrighted content. Okay, you can put filters, you can put clocks, you can put masks, you can draw in the screen, you can put you can write. So Manicam, for me, it's an amazing tool for people to, because it's very easy and he has so many features you can use. You're not obliged to use them all, of course, you don't, but it has a wide range. If you are, even though you are a beginner, you're in the middle, or if you're an advanced user, it has almost everything you need. I like also OBS, but OBS, it's kind of advanced tool. Someone already talked Restream. It's another amazing tool which allows you to have so many people. It's very easy. I produce some shows on Restream. It's very easy to work with. It's very easy to bring guests. It's very easy to manage everything. Be Live, of course. StreamYard also. StreamYard and Be Live have a feature which is very good when you're producing, which is the host chat, which is a secret chat where when you can interact with people which are on screen without those who are watching the show see that you're sending them messages, because some things may happen while you're live. And for instance, you need to get out for a while, so you can send a message to the producer, look, I need to get out a little bit, or the producer can say, because for instance, if you are a kind of out of frame, the producer can send, please stay on the center of the screen, or lower the camera or something else. I think, but again, the most important tool, as Joe mentioned before, it's you. Because if you don't, as a guest, or the people who are, or the host, the people who are on the screen, it's important. And again, do you remember, Lottie, what was the thing I answered to you when you asked me which is for me the most important thing to be confident on camera?
You said, I think you were saying, Marco, it's the belief in yourself. It's the belief in yourself, knowing what you're actually talking about. I think that was the first thing that he said, but my brain is going all over the place, and I'm focusing on 5 different things at the moment. So focus, hopefully, was part of it, Marco.
Yeah, it
If
is.
not,
But
what
for
was
me,
it?
but for me, the most important thing for being confident on camera is the will to be in front of camera, because everything else will follow. So it's important. And if you are reaching out a live producer, it's because you have that will with you. Otherwise, you won't.
100%. And that kind of links to what I said, Marco, because basically we've got to want to be here, but then also, why be here and be somebody that you're not? Why turn up here and be terribly serious about everything when because you're running a serious business? People don't want to see that. People want to see us messing up, being silly, having some fun. Yes, there's serious business time, but there's also time to have some fun. And I love it. This is what actually happens underneath the iceberg, folks. What actually happens is you wear your slippers, you come to screen with the top half being seen, and you tidy up your studio, and that's when you go for it. I'm going to come back over and have a look through some of the comments, because I know, Corinda, you mentioned here, Lottie, can I make a point, please, with people? I see they go live and they don't have a script. That's more important because it allows people to know what topic's about on my right. I think what Corinda means there is, yes, please do have a running order, have a plan, but please, we've been doing this all week with TEDx, with people who are desperately trying to learn a fixed script. As an actor, as a performer, yes, on stage, we learn a script, we learn specific lines, but then we spend hours and hours and days and weeks rehearsing to make it sound like you've never, ever said these words before. If you go ahead and write a word-for-word script for yourself, great if you've got tools like auto cue abilities. If you haven't, write a plan and chat around it. Think to yourself, all you're doing is simply sharing a story, and your knowledge and skills and expertise that you've learned doesn't necessarily make you an expert. Other people say that you're an expert, but we can actually say we've experienced enough, as Marco said at the very beginning, since 2014, 2015, 2016, we've experienced enough that we've gone through it together. We've been lucky enough to do that, so we can mentor other people. We can guide other people. We can support other people. So please never write your whole script out, because what's going to happen is you're therefore going to be reading your script and people are just going to see the top of your head. And because you're reading, your voice is going to go very, very flat. And we've all seen it, folks, haven't we?
It also stops you from engaging. It's that engagement, whether you're just doing producing or whether you're doing for a small artisan business, hosting producer for them to see them through it. That you're the conduit to the viewers on whatever the topic areas of the show are. And there's not enough shows I see where I love what you've been doing today, because I don't see enough of that in many live stream shows where they don't bring the comments up. And it's that piece of engagement which connects the studio and therefore the people and therefore the product, the service, the organization or the cause with the people that you're trying to, your current or future clients or supporters or whatever. And we need more of that. It's the old MMFI, make me feel important. Everybody likes having their comments up there, their avatar, the picture, you calling them, and they feel as though they're part of that journey with you. Make them feel important because they're taking the time to come and join you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So I would, can I just get in there on that comment that you just made? So for me, when it comes to pulling things together in that discovery call, you want to make sure what are the visual elements going to be, what are the audio elements going to be. You want to make sure that your client understands that you will also help their guests look their best, because the guest is the star of the show. There is the interviewing skills, for example. Just because you can go live doesn't mean you're a good interviewer. There's a huge difference. That is a whole nother skill that comes to play. So when somebody asks me to produce a show, I also want to know, do you want me to simply produce or do you want me to anchor the show? Because that's a whole nother job in itself. I'm quite happy to anchor a show as well. I'm pretty confident in my skills in doing that. There's so many elements to working out the show introduction, the run of the show. What are the things that you want your audience to know at the beginning of the show? What are the things you want to do in the middle of the show? What are the things you want to do at the end of the show? Learning to have that relationship with your client so that you know what the cues are during running the show if you're in the background. If you have that relationship, the more you, and that is why I'm saying you've got to be in it for the long haul, because after a couple of shows, you already learn each other's visual cues. Absolutely. And you know when to do what. And I wanted to mention something just very, very specifically as an experienced producer. Now, yes, it's very important to show people's comments on screen, but I do want to put a word of caution out there. If you are an experienced producer, you are going to know that you do not pop every single comment on the screen. You have to read the comments first. How relevant are those comments? It's very different when you're friends and you're just popping things on screen. But if I'm producing a show for someone, I'm not going to pop every single comment on screen. I read them first. I want to see, is the question, how relevant is it to the show? Because sometimes people ask questions that has absolutely nothing to do with the show. Remember that when you're producing for somebody, you want them to end up with a video. And this is where your discovery call comes in as well. You want to make sure that I want to make sure people end up with an evergreen piece of video content that they can reuse for the next 5 or 10 years. So make sure that the content is evergreen. Make sure that you don't pop somebody's comment on there that is irrelevant, that's going to ruin your video, because you cannot undo that comment. So that's my word of caution when it comes to comment. Yes, you want to, because it's engaging. It encourages engagement. It adds richness to the show, because that's why we do this. But the caution is, be careful about the comments you put on screen. You cannot delete it afterwards. Understand what the purpose of the show is, and make sure that the comments has got to match the purpose of the show. So that's my huge word of caution there.
Yeah, I can add something more to what Bridget said, because it's truly important. I made this mistake, and someone once said to me, maybe you should not do this, which is, while I'm talking, I interrupt to comment someone's comment, or while my guest is talking, I put on the screen the comment. A big don't. And I don't like to do this don't thing too much, but it's a big don't. If you are talking about one idea, finish your idea and then head to the comments. If your guest is talking, let him or her finish what he's talking, and then you can bring the comment if, as Bridget well said, if it's relevant to the conversation. Okay? Because if you are putting these distractive things, these interruption things, it will be annoying to your audience. If you want, as mentioned, Bridget said, if you want to reuse the content and have this in mind to create content to be reused next month, next 6 months, next year, next 10 years, have in mind that you should not be interrupt all the time by comments, because even though it's a great comment, finish your idea, let your guest finish his or her idea, and then bring up the comment. Never ever interrupt with the comment, because it doesn't sound good.
I think those are fantastic points there from all of you. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna add on to that. It's one thing that I always do is I always have my iPad.
Oh my God!
Look, delayed.
Oh my God!
We've got double Marco.
Oh my God!
Double Marco on delay. But what I'll often do, because a lot of the time I'm actually doing training shows, what I will actually do is I think that both Marco and Brigetti and Joe were talking about comments, that you guys having a chat. Oops, there's the beeper saying that's our time. That's 5 minutes to the end of time. You guys can have a chat. You are watching. You are taking the time to watch us. You can do whatever you darn well please over in the chat room, apart from obviously be rude and derogatory, because if you are, the likelihood is other viewers are going to tell you to off. from that chat and actually kick you out of the room. For us as show producers, it's wonderful when we can see viewers who are commenting on us. If we mention something, like when, I can't remember who it was, but I went and said about that links to, Marco was talking about the tools, to add in, there's the URL for that tool, or there's the Facebook group community for that tool. That kind of commenting is amazingly useful. Or to quote us as speakers, that is the most phenomenal thing, because in the speaking world, our speaker mentor coach, Patricia Fripp, she's a legend. She always says we need quotables, repeatables, retweetables. How do we know as live speakers, virtual speakers, what our comments, repeatables, retweetables are, unless you go as viewers, ooh, I liked that. So those are the sorts of comments we love to see as presenters. The other thing you can do, I often do, Marco, I think you were talking about chat comments then, because I often, when my speaker, my guest is speaking, I will put lower thirds. I will actually put down the bottom. It appears as what we call the lower third. Text comes up along the bottom, like my name down there. I will often, when they're speaking, I will be saying tip number 1. Be confident in your way on camera. I will often do that while my guest is making the comments. So like Darren saying, thank you for this great show to you all. Lekker show. Good South African word then. That's brilliant. I'm very glad to hear it. And for Sarah, actually Sarah's saying really important that you only use comments that make sense. Don't interrupt a speaker and that enhance the content, not distract. That is the key point. And that's why you'll see putting your own lower thirds. A lot of people use these because they think that viewers don't have the focus and concentration. Mindset, 8 seconds of goldfish. Ugh. No, we don't have to edit everything. But you can, by putting up lower third comments yourself, that can enhance the learning of the viewer with the viewer. And by adding comments like we've seen Stephen do for us as the producer, that's what makes it easy for you as the speaker. So now the alarm has gone off, but quickly before we go, folks, I do want to bring up, because I know the rest of this week, every day at the same time, is going to be an hour-long show, an hour-plus show, about live production, answering the what can a producer give you, and what are the gems behind. I know there's 2 key questions, which I've lost somewhere in my notes. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with having your notes here. If you're going to refer to your notes, just make it obvious rather than this. Make it obvious. Oh, let me have a look. Where was I meant to be? Oh, what are we meant to be talking about now? Oh, yes. How much does it all cost to get someone to produce your show? I know I've seen people charging anything from $50 through to thousands of dollars. But as Joe was saying, Brigetti was saying, it can take up to 10 hours to produce one show of a professionally produced show. But when you've got a producer who is pre-promoting, also doing repurposing for you, who is doing your marketing, that's 10 hours just to produce the show, not to do the pre-production, the pre-promotion, the pre-marketing, the live interviews like I'm doing for TEDx here, the lifestyle interviews 8-9 weeks out every week for them. By the way, I'm volunteering to do that. So there are people who will volunteer for you because they want the experience as a producer. Why not get together as a group, as a community, and do that for each other? It's brilliant learning if you're new. But how much, Joe, how much have you been offered or seen people charge for shows to produce them?
Again, I posed the question to Stephen about 2 months ago, and he immediately put a poll up. And it went from anything from $50 up to, I think one was $2,000, and I both end of the scales. There are people like who I deem are professionals, like you three, and Stephen and Jeff Adam and people like that, and who are at the top end of the scale, and that's a different thing. There are people who are at the bottom end of the scale who are just starting out, who should be really doing things for free to test themselves, or a small amount, because you have to have something that gives you some self-worth for your time. So it's that middle bracket. And one of the reasons that behind this for everyone who's watching is because we want to come out of this with a blueprint framework for live video production, both on our side. So it's managing expectations on both sides. But I think around about the 250 or 300 mark is for a small artisan business, for 30 minutes for an hour show is reasonable for people.
Some countdown clock appearing then. I think that might be, we need to get off the air soon. But Marco, in Europe, in your part of the world, what sort of fees are you seeing producers charging, or do you feel is a reasonable price?
Well, on this part of the world, we are very shy. We don't do this often yet because it's Latin culture. It's a different one. We are very shy in front of cameras. In the offline world, we are very expensive. We are extroverts, but if the camera turns on, oh my God, I'm shy. But I think I think the conversation should start about 100 up and going up, because you need expertise. You need to avoid that headaches to your client. You need to bring that confidence, because you don't go to a doctor if it works for free, or a lawyer. Okay, so I think it's important to understand that if you charge so few, maybe you're not so good.
Well, I think that's exactly the point that Joe's just made. And I love, Marco, you said the mix up between expensive and expressive. I love it. That's beautiful Europeans for me. That's your world, expensive and expressive. That's part of a world to be. And Brigetti, I know I agree with Joe. In Ireland, you're looking at kind of between 150 to 250 euros for a show. I know that's about $250, $300 for a show is starting to be common. But that, remember, folks, is often when the producer will have the tools you can use too. And the producer can help train you. That's what I'm doing with our TEDx Dunleary. I am going to be doing live streams, but we are training our young change maker mentors, our teens, how they can do it themselves. So that is very cool. You may think $100 is very cheap or very reasonable, 150, but what are you really getting? More importantly, not getting as a result. And Brigetti, can you just carry on what therefore would be what to look for from a producer of what they do afterwards? Because I know repurposing is so key to what do we do after? And then that should wrap us up nicely.
Yes, there's definitely sort of, I think we spoke about the pre-show, which is your graphic and your audio elements, your scheduling, your run of the show template, your script template, guest preparation, audience notification, custom thumbnails. Those are all the kind of things that you would do pre-production. But in your post-production, you want to be able to download that video, send a copy of that video to your to the person that you're producing the show for. And then possibly, depending on the arrangement you've got with your client, you could also, snip it up into little segments for them. Either they get the whole video and they can then take it to someone else and get snippets, or you could break it up for them. But just know that that's another cost. That's a huge time factor to present them with snippets of that video. And I think for most people, it's better for them to just take that to someone else, because, your job as a producer would be more the pre-production and the actual production, and then providing them with a video afterwards, because they could possibly get it done in-house, with somebody chopping up that video, because it's a huge waste of my time. It's not something I want to do post-production. I will present them with a video, but I don't want to be chopping it up. Because that chopped up video, you can literally get a couple of hundred of snippets out of there that you can use for years. You can even use those snippets to eventually. We didn't talk about this during the show, but I mean, you want to, if somebody even wants you to produce an intro and an outro for them, those snippets are going to become valuable to use for that, for example. But it's, that's what I'm saying. It's a long process. Be in it for the long haul. And when it comes to cost, I would say, for myself, I don't want to produce anything for less than $120 to $150. That's my minimum, because I know what value I bring to the table. My time is valuable, and I know what I can offer can offer people. So for me personally, nothing under $120 to $150. From there, you know, it's a sliding scale up depending on what my level of involvement is going to be in producing a show.
Yeah, and I think Brigetti, both you and Joe and Marco and myself, we're all looking for retainer work. That is the relationship. That is the awareness of people. It's the relationships, the connections, the collaborations, the cooperations, the community. It's the confidence, the learnings, and going ahead with somebody without ego. Find that producer that you know is going to let you be you, but bring the best you and the best part of what you do to screen. I know that Darren was mentioning about being a salesperson. Sometimes for salespeople, it's all very pushy, and but it's actually, this is not a place for selling and telling. This is a place for sharing, community, connections, collaborations, and learning together. Because learning all the time, as Marco said, he's up there and he's down there, and having some fun while we do it. So Gospel, thank you. I know you were saying along the way that there were some great tips for you, Mark Farrington. It depends on the brief and how many locations, travel, length of show, exactly. The great thing is, Mark, with this is virtual. You don't even have to go anywhere unless you're like Marco, going to the beach, or you just make yourself a green screen.
I have to just say, sorry, Lottie, Mark Farrington is a top TV and film producer. I worked with him on a show before. He is like top level type stuff. So his is very broad.
So we should be saying, Mark, the minimum for producing live stream shows, if you're a TV exec, like we have worked with before, if you come from the TV world, then it's going to be a lot higher, folks.
A lot higher. It's
actually, I was looking for TEDx, we're looking at some video production. It's starting at 8,000. So, and the tools that I'm looking at for sharing my quest used to start at 10,000, is now starting at 2,000 per year. But that's where you don't do it and spend the money until you know what you're doing, or you get somebody else to produce with you, not for you, with you, so that you can learn as you go, because that is one of the key aspects behind it. That's the fun too, isn't it, folks? All the fun behind it. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Stephen, our wonderful producer who is behind the scene, we are giving you a big deaf community clapping, live streaming, clapping hands up. Come on, all of you three, give Stephen a big clap from us. In whatever way you do it. Thank you. Big round of applause, as we also do. Thank you to all of you for watching, for commenting, for interacting. That's what it's all about live. That's the difference between a video chat and a live stream show, is that you, as the audience, get to get involved. We're TV 2.0, as Roy Montero, the face of Blab, the voice of Blab, would used to say. So stepping out from that, our aim at the beginning of the show is, what can a producer give you? Hopefully, have we answered it all, folks?
Certainly. You have been watching Marco Novo in Portugal, Joe Shepherd and Lottie Hearn in Ireland, Brigetti Lembanda in Cape Town, South Africa. This is the voice of Stephen Healey in wonderful Wiltshire in England. Thank you for watching. It's been a blast. On behalf of everybody, I say thank you to our 4 co-hosts today. And we'll be back tomorrow at the same time with myself and Derry Burrows and Linda West. So we're here every day this week. For now, goodbye.